I just got out of the shower. Let's talk about Hamilton. One of Hamilton's themes throughout the musical is how history always has its eyes on you. That no matter what, you will be remembered in history, for better or for worse. This theme has always stuck with me, a sort of reminder that what I do and my actions may become common knowledge among a generation. Hamilton's actions have led him to be a vital figure during the United States independence, then to be forgotten, then finally revitalized when a musical was made about him. So, with that introduction out of the way, let's talk about him. From the very first song, we learn about Hamilton's accomplishments within the modern day, like being on the $10, a founding father without a father who got a lot farther. However, we're also presented with Hamilton's hardships. His father left, his mother died from a sickness, his cousin committed suicide, he was left with nothing but ruined pride. But a voice saying But Hamilton kept going. He defines himself and his identity to the first line to the audience. His name, Alexander Hamilton. He tells us that there's a million things he has yet to do, but he plans to do so much more. Hamilton begins working and gathering books and knowledge to finally head to the New World, New York City. Thanks to the help of a community Hamilton had within the Caribbean. Within the very first song, Hamilton the musical has shown how determined Hamilton, the person, is. Despite struggling so much in his early life, Hamilton continues to strive for success. He continues to show how much he can and will do. Following this, Hamilton finally arrives in New York City, 1776. An important year in history as it marked the beginning of the American Revolution, leading to a war where untrained family men managed to fight off the strongest army in the world through pure wit and intellect. Hamilton meets Aaron Burr, Sir, a recognized figure at Princeton, a university Hamilton likely briefly visited. Hamilton, ever the successor, wanted to have an accelerated course of study so that he could achieve more and faster. Hamilton and Burr began to trade beliefs, many of which they share. Both graduated early to join the revolution and are orphans. Hamilton continues talking quickly and nervously to Burr before being interrupted. Burr tells Hamilton to start
talk less. What? Smile more. Don't let them know what you're against or what you're for.
Talking less and smiling more. He urges Hamilton not to show or ever tell people what he wants or what he's fighting for, and to just do it. Hamilton doesn't believe Burr in the slightest. However, he follows Burr into a bar, which sounds like the start of a bad joke, but I assure you it's not. There in the bar, Hamilton is introduced to John Lawrence, a revolutionary soldier, Lafayette, a French general who came to help in the revolution as a way to motivate the people of France to begin rebelling, only to die in his first battle. And Hercules Mulligan, another revolutionary soldier, rooted in nature, yet a tailor's apprentice. They ask Burr why he has yet to do anything major for the revolution, only for Hamilton to interject, asking,
"And for nothing, Burr, what'll you fall for?"
This sadly begins Hamilton and Burr's rivalry, due to Hamilton questioning Burr's beliefs and caution towards the war, compared to Hamilton's abrasive and intensive nature towards anything, especially the war and his career. The men question who Hamilton is, to which Hamilton jumps up and announces that he is that no matter what, he is going to do everything he can in his life to achieve as much as possible, that he is never going to give up, regardless of what happens next. Hamilton already lost everything he had prior to coming to New York. Now he has everything to gain and nothing to lose. Within this song, Hamilton makes plans and connects with Lafayette, Lawrence, and Mulligan. Specifically, Lafayette lays out his plans to Hamilton to get rid of French's monarchy. Lawrence wishes to end slavery and have black and white soldiers as equals in the war. And Mulligan just wants to join the revolution so he doesn't have to sew pants anymore. Amazing. 10 out of 10 character, truly. Hamilton, like the rest of the men, has his own goals for the revolution. Hamilton wishes to overcome every obstacle, every burden, and manage them all as he helps America reach a point of independence to escape the meaningless taxes that the British impose onto the colonies. In their excitement, Burr acts as an ignored voice of reason, asking the men to lower their voices because people likely won't agree and may cause problems for the men. Burr is of course, ignored. And Hamilton jumps up again. He tells the men that it is no coincidence that they're all there together. They begin hatching a plan. However, Hamilton briefly stops, quite out of character, questions himself and his actions, asking if he is really being too abrasive for wanting too much. He knows that his advantage of having nothing to lose and everything to gain is lost now that he's become friends with the men. So, he promises to make them proud. Following this, Hamilton speaks of death, an inevitable fate that arrives for all, and Hamilton knows this. He reconciles on the fact that where he comes from, many people don't live long at all, and Hamilton managed to live through a sickness that killed even his mother. He begins questioning what the country will do with its independence. He asks if it guarantees freedom for all, even those in the future. As the fight continues, Hamilton has continued to read and write. He laughs at the face of sorrow as the death of his cousin and mother have yet to truly faze him and keep him from his achievements. The song ends with Hamilton and the men, Lafayette, Lawrence, and Mulligan, chanting that they, like Hamilton, will not be throwing away their shot. Within this powerful and impactful song, Hamilton and his newfound friends introduce us to the shot motif that is later used subtly when Hamilton refuses to throw away his shot and goes after something larger and more ambitious. As the music swells and lightens from a heavy brass to a soft, string-based melody, the men and Hamilton make a pact with each other. They raise their glass to freedom, to the freedom of them and their people. They promise each other that there will be more soldiers the next day, and the next, until they defeat the British and they have told the story of that fateful night. As the men make promises to each other about their freedom, Philip Schuyler's daughters, Peggy, Eliza, and Angelica, make their way downtown. Burr, a lowlife compared to the rich daughters, approaches, only for Angelica, the oldest and thus leader of the three, to list her own declaration. She talks about how women should be treated as equals to men. If the men so desperately want freedom from an oppressive government across the sea, shouldn't the women have freedom from their domestic owners, as men are seen by women? Also, here Angelica introduces the Schuyler motif.
But look around, look around.
Throughout the song, the sisters, mostly Angelica and Peggy, present two sides of the same coin. Those who are for independence, patriots, and those who weren't, loyalists. In this case, Peggy was presented as a loyalist. She worried for her father going to war and the fact that there will be violence within the colonies from their government. Angelica, however, sees independence as an opportunity for freedom to be given to women, all while Burr makes poor attempts to win over one of the sisters. As the scene transitions back to Hamilton and his new friends, the audience is introduced to one of Hamilton's first political rivals, Samuel Sabry, a loyalist fighting against the idea of independence. As Hamilton and his friends approach, they are taken back by Sabry's advice. Hamilton, not listening to his friends, jumps onto Sabry's soapbox and quickly begins disproving Sabry's writings to the crowd as he reads them, mocking and making fun of Sabry.
Have you all unravel at the sound of screams, but the revolution is coming. The have-nots are gonna win. It's hard to listen to you with a straight face.
Burr interrupts Hamilton. Trying to get him to stop, Hamilton continues to speak out against Sabry, telling Burr to drop the niceties as
Alexander, please. Burr, I'd rather be divisive than indecisive. Drop the niceties.
they are both interrupted by the king, his troops, and the king's message. Within King George's first song, he calls attention to the characters and their revolutionary ideals, mentioning the Boston Tea Party, a result of a tax placed on the colonies. He reminds the colonies that he is still their ruler, and can easily defeat them, regardless of what army they form. As the song continues, the king introduces the audience to the king's motif, in my opinion, kind of annoying motif that stays only within the king's songs.
Remind you of my love. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da.
In the last verse, the king tells the colonies that he will win this war and the colonies will be his, thanks to his so-called love to the colonies. As we enter the 8th song, we are given an ensemble of the cast declaring that 32,000 troops have arrived in New York, largely outnumbering any troops or resources gathered by the colonists. Hamilton enters, describing that he always wished for a war because he knew it was the only way for him to rise up and become more noticed among his peers. However, despite the shared patriotism among the Revolutionary Army, they still need one thing: a general. That general being the great pride of Mount Vernon, General George Washington.
Mr. Rogers, I almost forgot that suit did nothing for your.
No one asked you to look, Tony.
It's ridiculous.
I think you look great, Cap. As far as I'm concerned, that's America's.
Washington outlines to the audience the weaknesses of the Revolutionary Army, as they are outgunned, outmanned, outnumbered, and outplanned, and they need to make an all-out stand as his men keep retreating.
But in order to do that, Washington needs a right-hand man.
Enter Alexander Hamilton. As Washington has been searching for his right-hand man, Hamilton and his friends have stolen British cannons and used them to destroy ships and bases stationed in the colonies. At last, Washington decides on his right-hand man. Burr walks into the room and introduces himself to an oblivious Washington. Burr offers his services only to be ushered out as Hamilton enters the room. Hamilton becomes Washington's right-hand man, a title Burr strived to achieve. Hamilton didn't even want it. He just got it while Burr spent his time preparing for it. This continues to build Burr and Hamilton's rivalry. Hamilton, after refusing the opportunity to be other men's secretaries, he agrees to be Washington's right-hand man, as the shot motif plays behind him, reminding him that he is not throwing away his shot. He is not giving up or missing out on anything. The shot motif begins to mix with Washington's motif.
Son, we are outgunned, outmanned. You'll need all the help you can get. I have some friends, Lawrence Mulligan, Marquis de Lafayette. Okay, what else? Outnumbered, outplanned.
Introducing this song, as Hamilton begins ordering his friends for Washington to prepare for the greatest battle they have ever fought. Within the first 8 songs of Hamilton, Lin-Manuel Miranda outlines Hamilton and part of Burr's character, with only a short amount of time given to each of them individually, as well as building the tension and hate between the two that they will slowly begin having for each other. Miranda also briefly introduces vital characters like Angelica, Eliza, Lawrence, Washington, and, of course, the King, as well as other historical ideas such as patriotism and loyalism, all while staying catchy, quick, and exciting. Thank you.